Hello and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. With 4 race starts, we're going to start with our Category 4 riders, then 3, 2 and 1. Our riders lined up in yellow, that is our Category 1 riders. In green, our Category 2. In blue, Category 3. And Category 4 in red. Gradient is in there in percentage, 0% at the moment for Scott Francis, who is in 1. And below the profile, as Scott gives us away, thank you, Scott.
Just taking the adulation of the
adulation.
crowd.
Meanwhile, Phil Graves doing exactly what everybody else has decided. It's the first of the year. I'm going to have the first attack. Phil Graves going for the first attack in Category 2 for 2024.
Carradine is pushing on here. He's gone with Osborne, Jochems and Mayer. The riders are 4 of them. They are up and away. Osborne is chasing. Vujacin is in there as well. Fire coming out of the engine.
That's me normally.
Well, it's...
No. On your right-hand side. On the left-hand side, well, it's a solo Category 1 rider. UAE Clan Team rider Michael Vick is back on form. He's attacked.
Race-winning team for December's final in 2023. Well, this is a new year. This is a new race. And Ivo Sur is going to take the win for 2024 on the Sunday Race Club.
So hello and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. It is the start of qualifier number 2 for our men. We've just finished the women's race. It was an absolutely cracking race. And so we're going to move on from our women's race. And I'm going to bring in my co-host here today. Somebody whose voice I'm hoping is holding together. It's the one and only
Emma Martin.
There we go. Emma, you've been really busy doing lots of talking.
I have. I've been eating lots of ice cream as well, so things are going well.
That's several stage races plus everything else and all the prep. Tell you what, let's stretch it a bit more. Take us to Australia.
Well, we are indeed going to Australia in the men's race today. This is qualifier race number 2 in January 2024. 45 kilometres of racing, 666 metres of climb, and most of that comes in the Canberra climb. And you can see that Category 2 climb comes at 15.3 kilometres into this 45 kilometre course. When they get to the top, and the top is steep, over 16%, it is a 24.3 kilometre run to the finish.
And that run to the finish, it looks flat because of the scale of the climb.
It's not.
No, it's very, very bumpy. It's very, very changing in gradient, and it's very hard to get into a rhythm on there, and that's going to be key, and we'll come to that later on. 4 categories on our race start. As you can see, the times to their race start, just over 20 minutes to our Category 1, 15 to Category 2, 5 to Category 3, but in to their last minute is Category 4. Now, I'm going to run you through our team riders before we get to the start. We've got the Anzacs here with Brett McMurtry representing them. Mighty Ducks, Casagrande, Rooney, Cronje taking to the start. Spinergy are represented by Dario Finati, Marcus Britta, and Jason Kutzab. The upcycle team, Quadrelli, Lloyd, Schoberg, Mayard and Coleman. What a line-up. Don't forget Wolfie's racing team. Tom Harvey here. The team at Wolfie supporting the racing. So we are getting ready for the riders to start. It is qualifier number 2. It's category number 4. The first riders. It's time to go. Here we are. It is the start of the race, the start of the effort that will see our riders completing 45 kilometres. And for me, the key first test is going to come in the first 2K. We turn left and we go up the climb that features in the Parameta circuit. Luke Allport does what Luke Allport does.
Heads off the start very fast, but Allport now settling down a little bit. Newman has gone with him, and they've stretched the group out of the start pen and onto this course. And the reason they've stretched it, well, if you take a look at the top right-hand corner of your screen, that is the gradient coming up, and within 500 metres of this course starting, They hit that small climb, and that climb hits 7%.
It does, and look at what Allport's done. I mean, he has caused riders to be distanced down the back of the group. He's really fractured this, but what you can't afford to do is break it and then go out the back. But Allport is very quickly back onto the pace.
And I love the fact that his avatar there is taking a sneaky look over his shoulder just to check the damage that his legs have done as Allport continues up the climb. The stretch on that Category 4 pack is huge. And the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you can see the gaps now in the peloton.
And as the riders come up towards the top of this climb, they'll go over where the course goes directly underneath them in a tunnel in a short while. But the top of this part of the climb is not categorized. It's a slightest pimple on the face of the outer loop course. However, it is enough to do damage if you put the pressure on, and that is being ripped up on the front here. I mean, it is all red. It's all into the chevrons, and the pressure goes on over the top. Great to see these riders in. Let's see if this splits. Emma, we're going to come to the rest of the riders in this race back in a minute, but look at the damage.
I just can't get over the fact you called it a pimple, because I tell you something, their legs do not feel like that was a pimple.
Okay, a monstrous boil on the face. It's not. Oh! It's a tiny, 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 tiny little gradient.
Well,
in what is this big climb, this big course?
It's a little gradient according to Matt, but it means you need a really good warm-up because the pace is hot from the start and the power goes down on that climb. We saw the red chevrons, we saw the orange chevrons, and we're seeing the pack come back together a little, but it's still stretched.
It is. Now, whilst this starts to reform and regroup, which is what is going to inevitably happen as it runs its way round now after that first little instigator of action, take us through the race of this race field, because this is a big, big race field.
It is. Overall, we've got a huge race field today. 188 riders on the start sheets today. 54 of those in Category 4. Now, you've taken us through the teams, Matt. Mark Dadson, who had a 4th place last week, is here. Luke Allport, who we've already seen attack off the front, finished 2nd last week. Caro is here. Pino, Montoya, who finished 5th. Yates is here. Holtz, Spratt, Mamba, Carcajal is here as well. There are some really strong riders in this race field today. But we have seen some riders go up. Ola Warren has gone up from Category 4 to Category 3, and Adriano Zanaska did as well.
And that is because they have shown that they have got the pace and power to do that. And remember, of course, this is a very hard race category. They're all hard race categories.
Oh, yeah. There's no such thing as an easy race category.
No, and that is in part because we've got such close race categories, in part because we've got such big numbers in here. The riders at the moment in this lead group continuing to extend, big groups behind, but this leading selection has been made. And one of the key things for me that people need to remember to do, really, really important, if you are going to race, do your homework first. If you want to be right up there to see how it runs, watch back the race footage. It's not just Emma and I who spend our time doing this. The best riders, the best competitors, they get themselves armed with the knowledge of what's likely to happen. Let's see if Category 3 have done exactly that. Now, the teams who should be sharing that knowledge amongst themselves, the Anzac Wolfpack here, Ben Kirk representing them, Draft represented by Cansara. We've got Italian Espresso, Kegula, Bala, Mandello, Casumano. We've got Roncalli in there. You want to keep an eye out for Level Racing's Simon Bradley in for Level Racing, the owner and founder of the race team, and then X-Pro represented by Jose Rodriguez. So going to be very interesting to see how those teams play this out, Emma, as we get down to start time.
We're in with Zanaska on what is a huge field of 52 riders in this Category 3 race, as away they go on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club for Qualifier 2 in January. Can't believe we're in 2024, but we are, and the racers are proving that there is fast action already this year on the Sunday Race Club, because that pull and that push from Allport in the Category 4 race is being matched by a fast start here from Rinborg. Cansara is there as well. This pace really hot out of the start pen already. 6.8 watts per kilo at the moment on the front of the pack, and the damage is already being done, and there's still 100 meters from that climb.
and it's only going to get harder. It's only going to get steeper. Will they be able to keep this pace up? I mean, we're doing nearly 50 kilometers an hour as they rocket the way out and onto the climb. Now, the pace comes off in terms of speed, but the power is continuing to be put down. Good to see Adriano Zanaska, after having moved up from Category 4 into a Category 3, as Emma said, right up in the mix. He's in this group. Ben Kirk in here, looking strong. Just seeing him come through. Kirko riding for the Anzacs at Wolfpacks. The team's starting to build ready to get into our finals. Gonsolin right in this mix. Hoyos, it really is a who's who of Category 3. But this group at the moment is compact. We're not over the top yet. Remember, that is where the gaps open. If there's a 2-meter gap, when you go over the top, it can quickly open to a 20-meter gap. Starting to see the first rider start to be distanced off the back of that group. Now, Emma, this is not braking as much as Category 4. Right-hand side of your screen, Category 4 going through the sprint. Category 3, it's just fracturing as we go over the top, but it's not as big a gap.
It's not as big a gap as we saw in Category 4, but then I'd argue we've got a much tighter pack and a much more... I was going to use, I'm struggling for my words. I was going to use the word consistent, but it's not consistent. The like-for-like match in Category 3 is really tight, in terms of the categorisation on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. And we have got so many riders in here who are phenomenal riders who work really well. We've lost the winner from last week. Not lost, but he's still here, but he's moved up to Category 2. So Ivo Sur, who took the win last week, moving up. In fact, the second place rider, Brett Davidson, also moving up to Category 2. So opening up the top of the race field a little bit. And I think the riders have taken note of that and really are going for it, because the first and second place riders from last week have moved up, leaving those top spots open for somebody else.
So let's see who's going to take advantage of that. Who will be able to be the opportunity grabber? Who
opportunist.
is an opportunist? I don't like that word, opportunist.
See, we're struggling for words today.
I know I like an opportunity grabber. I like to grab an opportunity. It really, opportunist almost feels like it just happened along and you just sort of wandered into it. Whereas if you grab it with both hands, that's what you need to do. This is racing. This is not just going for a stroll in the park and just, it was an opportunist moment that I saw a leaf fall from the tree.
I'll tell you something. Moreno is saying, come on, guys, let's work, because Orego is here. Moreno and Cadiz, 3 riders, have indeed gone clear this early on. And they want to keep this motoring. They want a 3-up time trial off the front, because it's gap of, it's 3 seconds at the moment. It's fluctuating to 4. Can they stay cleared? But the 3 of them would definitely have to work together, because it's a big bunch chasing.
It is. We're going to take the right-hand turn very shortly. We come alongside where the pens are. We turn right underneath the tunnels. We go into town. That is where I think they're likely to find this difficult, because it's not particularly hilly. It is all about the pace and the bunch, but the bunch not seemingly bothered. Big pack across the road, not looking like they're going to close this down immediately. And one of the good things is, because of course this is the men's race rather than the women's, the time gap between Category 3 and 2 is 10 minutes rather than 5 minutes, which means we get a little bit extra time to watch whether or not these 3 are going to go clear. So the 3 riders in front with the gap, with the pens where the riders wait is on our left. We're going to take a 90-degree right-hand turn here. If you've been out exploring the worlds in Australia, out on the routes, you'll know that when you take this right-hand turn here, or if you go underneath this archway into the tunnels, you're in sight for a long time. It's a straight here. It's slightly downhill. It gives the advantage to the fastest moving big pack, because you've got that draft, and then it sweeps left and into town, and then it gets hilly again. It starts to get a little bit bumpy, but it's not particularly bad until you're out the other side of the Sydney sprint. You've got to get to about 5.5k in fact before you get the next significant hill, and that is actually, although it's not quite steep, it's longer than that first initial kicker that broke the groups up.
Well, the gap at the moment, 7 seconds to the leading 3, but this is a tight bunch, and they are rolling fast at 45 kilometres an hour on this pack at the moment. Treshu is the rider we are in with at the moment, but well, everybody who we would expect to be in the mix is there. 9 seconds, so that leading group of 3 just eking out a couple more seconds, but the reaction, it's looking as though it's coming from behind, because we've got a fast pace on the pack behind now. They're pushing up towards 5 watts per kilo behind, but Moreno is doing that on the front of this leading group of 3, just on a little rise at the moment, which is pushing the pace at the moment from these 3. It's Orrego, Cadiz and Moreno. They are 8 seconds clear.
Now, these 3 need to work together. They've committed to this group. You've got Moreno, Orrego and Cadiz all looking like this really matters to them, that they're going to play out the team tactics. It'll be very interesting to see if the 3 of them race as a team when we come to the finals. Is this a dress rehearsal for some team tactics later on? Now, in the race today, they're not down as a team, but it may be, if we dial back, they are actually racing as a team. Or when would they race the finals? It's going to be very interesting to see that.
I'm just going to drop us back into the course for a little while, Matt, because this is the Australia Outer Loop race course. The climb comes at 15.3 kilometres, category 2 climb, 5.4 kilometres in length with an average gradient of 8.1%. And we've often said when we are racing this course that you have to treat the top of that Canberra climb like the finish line, even though it's nearly 25 kilometres before the actual finish line of the race, because if you are not with the pack at the top, well, it is a really difficult run to close it down.
And that big climb comes after a big distance. So the riders at the moment in category 3 have just gone through the Sydney Sprint. After the Sydney Sprint, there is a rise, a drop, and then you drop down into the tunnels. Now, that's where category 4 are. Category 4 have to climb out from the tunnels, the low point on the course, into the roads that approach the climb. That means that you've got a big climb. You've got the biggest climb so far. It's the second biggest climb of the day. Not categorized. It's the second biggest climbing section. It's equivalent to climbing about between a quarter and a third, reckon about a quarter of the Canberra climb. So it's a big climb in its own right. It's not easy, and that means that is a real selection point. Then you hit the Canberra climb after having done that, and the roads in between are not particularly easy. It's that cumulative effect almost that makes life even harder on the Canberra climb, because it's not that long, Emma.
And selection points are really key, as you mentioned, because this is about... let's take a look at this. 54 riders category 4, 52 riders category 3. You do not want to take the entire pack into the bottom of the Canberra climb together. It's too many riders to risk it. So it is about how many riders can you lose off the back of the group before the start, from the start to the bottom of that climb in the first 15 kilometres. And that's why we always see really big attack after attack after attack on this outer loop course. And look at that, we're seeing here Svart trying now come across and close the gap to these 3 because the distance had got too long.
So let's see if they can do that. The 2 riders up in front, Orrego and Cadiz at the moment. Svart has ridden very strongly. I think this lead group is going to come back together. It was kind of inevitable. It looks like it's pretty much starting to happen now, and one by one those riders will get there. Now, on to category 2. We have another big race field here today. Category 2 with the Wattage Wizards, Ruben Dont, big sprint man, along with Karsten Mayer. You've got the UAE Falcons, so Syed Hamdan, Ahmed Al-Tanaji and Hassan Al-Ramethri. Watch out for them, particularly when it starts to go uphill. And the Hubbers team, Henrik Oyer, Maritz Ritter, Nicholas van Haren, along with Wouter Clays. That is a strong team. They have numerical advantage as well, but there's a lot more riders in there. Let's see how they go from this race start. Will they be as furious and as fast as the riders in categories 2, 3 and 4? Will it all be together? Will it be different? We will see. They make their way off from the start. Category 2 underway. Already seeing 1 or 2 people just yo-yoing in the pace at the moment, and the kick is on the front. I think this is going to be a bit of a carbon copy here, Emma. I wait to be proved wrong, but this is a hard kick from the start. It's going to leave our riders suffering.
Well, Matt's wondering whether he's going to be proved wrong today, but it's Ivo Sur, the rider who's come up from Category 3, who's on the front and making the action, being picked up and taking a look at that. The pack's still all together in this first 400 metres. They're coming up towards the climb and the power is going on, keeping the pace hot on the front and stretching the group as the front continues to change. One rider in danger on the back, but amongst those 40 riders, Bengtsson is here, Vanhee, Quadrelli, Spratt, Simmons, Koinstinen, both of the Kayan brothers, Cam Winfield on the start sheet today, the youngster from Australia. James Kranich is here. He took the win last week. The rider who's not in the mix today in Category 2, Phil Graves, because he has gone up to Category 1.
Well, with the race he's been doing, it was only a matter of time before Phil Graves came back to the form that saw him back into Category 1. One of those riders who yo-yos between the boundaries of Category 1 and 2. An unfortunate place to be when you get into Category 1 because you're at the bottom, but a nice place to be when you're at the top of Category 2. Now, Nicholas Spratt, one of our regular riders, already over the summit. That's how quick these riders in Category 2 are moving. They are distancing riders behind. Mohamed Mukhtari, I saw come to the front of the base of the climb with Ivo Sur. Those two riders were looking very strong. And Mohamed, we're on a great ride here. Good to see him on the Sunday Race Club. Looking very strong. A 5.8 watts per kilo kick as he came into that ascent to push himself up onto the front. And he's looking good at the moment. He's very, very strong. He's right up with Ruben Dont at the moment. And Dont now 6.7 watts per kilo. They've got over the top. They're hitting the flat. And Dont is not wanting to let this pace drop. He wants to keep this hard all the way into the climb. And we are starting to see four riders almost ease themselves off the front of the group here. Now, anybody going to chase? Is there going to be a move made here by Kalita? Paul Kalita is on the front of the bunch. They're going to come back here, and that was actually a big move to come back. It didn't look dramatic, but we were seeing some big numbers come out. Now they've been pulled back. The pressure comes off. They're going to roll around, and then I think we're going to see another kick again. I can't imagine they're going to let this go easily.
No one lets it go easily on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. Everybody fights week in, week out for position. And even if you are not at the front of the race field, riders are racing for position throughout the pack. They know who they're racing each week. They know what their results are. And whether you are racing for 38th and 37th and you are around the same riders week in, week out, everybody has their own goals. Everybody has their own objectives, and they all come together on a Sunday on the Sunday Race Club.
And we're seeing regular riders like Dom Van Haren and Simmons here, joined by Mukhtari. I think they thought, hang on a minute, he's riding strong here. Let's get a group together. They've got a split going. It's only a little bit, 1 second, but 1 second. You've got a long way in 1 second when you're traveling at 50 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, but we saw the split go up to 9 seconds in the Category 3 race, and the pack pull it back because the packs are so big at the beginning of this race as we move through the Outer Loop course in Australia.
And moving through that course, you can see Category 4, 3 and 2 now well underway. The furthest riders 45k is their finish line. They're a long way into that. Category 1 have the most chasing to do, though. The Coalition Alphajor, the team on form for so long with Vujasin, Kaminsky, Jones, Turek and Talbot. The Humans team with Rato representing them. Paint Toasted, full complement to Jacobs, theme. Bjorklund, Plantero and Jochems, and then the UAE clan team who were back on form and some super aggressive racing from them. Pablo Popovic, SS Mr. X100 and Michael Knudsen. Notable exception to the team, no Michael Vink. His Continental Race Team program starting. No Jason Osborne either.
Tour Down Under for him, but no Tour Down Under for these. They're in Australia, but they're on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. They are pushing on with Betty in the middle of the pack as the Category 1 riders are up and out onto the boardwalk. They're heading up to the left-hand turn, which will take them out onto the course. This is the Outer Loop race course in Australia. Australia, 45 kilometres with 666 metres of climbing. And yes, Phil Graves is back in Category 1, doing what Graves does best. He's off the front and he's pushing on early.
I tell you something, anybody who has not warmed up properly is going to be cursing Phil Graves, because they are going to be there going, what on earth, why? Just why?
Now, for anybody
Why?
who has joined watching the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, or racing the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, probably over the last 4 to 6 weeks when Phil Graves has been in Cat 2, will not know that historically Phil Graves was a Cat 1 rider. And traditionally, Phil's race craft and tactic was to push and sprint off the front early for at least the first hour. And then pretty much he'd sit up and tap his way in and let the final climbing take place, because he wasn't strong enough to go with them. Whereas we've seen him climbing in Category 2 so strongly. Phil Graves, well, he's climbing well at the moment and he's off the front.
Yeah, and I think that corresponds to his outdoor training. Phil Graves, international triathlete, top rider. I mean, you would only need to watch. I think Phil Graves probably has the record, or if not the record, he's super close with maybe 2 other riders I can think of being the rider who has ridden the Sunday Race Club the longest.
Yeah.
Because he's been here longer than I have, and I've been here a long time. He has been out there putting it down time after time, week after week after week, and he is a very strong rider. These moves that always called suicidal breaks.
Oh, look at it. It's brilliant.
I love the fact he goes for it. I often wonder his sanity doing it. And I also wonder the sanity of anybody who chases Phil Graves. Because don't panic. Don't panic, Captain Mannering. This is really important. Because Phil Graves is drawing power out of other riders. Yes, he's burning it himself. But the rest of them, they take the bait. You know, people are responding to this. This is Phil Graves. Phil Graves just moved up from Category 2. I'm sorry, but if you just move from Category 2 to Category 1, you might be able to go off the front and do this, but you're not going to be there at the end.
But you still don't want to give him 30, 40 seconds down the road.
I think you could give him 2 minutes coming into camera time.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
Decent grip, 2 minutes.
How deep would Phil Graves dig if he went in with a 2-minute gap up the camera climb? Phil Graves, if you want to get in touch and tell us after the race, please do. We would love to hear from you. If you think you could stay away up the camera climb with a 2-minute start.
I think you stay away, but not to the finish.
Well,
he might go to the top first, but he won't get to the finish.
We'll see what he thinks, because I'm sure he will get in touch. Well,
I tell you, it's infectious. It's
I
infectious.
know.
Look at this, Jack. Yeah, I think that is that Bjorklund who's just gone down the road. At least one of the riders just gone for it. That's not crazy. It's catchy.
Well, why let Phil Graves have all the fun when you can join in the party? So Kaminsky, Martins, all in here. Paradians, Noren, Safrazad, Graves, Jones, Jacobs in here as well. So is Betty and Nair. Zabata is in here. So is Knudsen. Really good to see whether Knudsen is coming back into form. He had illness throughout December, and that has knocked his form a little bit. Coming back now into the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club and racing strongly for the UAE Clan team. Thompson is here. So is Van Els. All of these riders riding strongly at the moment. Last week on the Paso Alto, it was Vink, Vujasin, Popovic, Kaminsky and Martins. In the December final, well, the men were on the Jebel Hafit in the December final. Osborne, Turek, Safrazad, Vink and Noren were the top 5. So a number of riders really on form at the moment.
There is, and I think this is what I really love about Category 1, is what we can't see is almost the most important thing. How well they are going, what their form is at. So we talk about training and strength, etc. But there's this magical little thing in the background called form. And when you have it, when you get that, you hit, it's like hitting a vein of gold underground. You follow that as long as you can, because it's almost mythical. You know, you get some great form, you've done the training, sometimes it just doesn't work. When you've got that form, it comes, and boy, you just want to stay with that as long as possible.
Our viewers, though, will have their favourite riders. They will have the riders that they really like, that they aspire to be, or they look at and really enjoy the race tactics and racecraft that they use. And they will follow those riders across where they are racing. They will follow those riders. They will know what riders are on form.
Well, yes and no. Yes, and because I think one of the great things is because we're almost on data overload, and not everybody puts everything on Strava. Let's face it. It's in theory, if it didn't happen on Strava, it didn't happen. But actually, not all the pros. Zach Nair is sort of the polar opposite. I mean, we're seeing riders on the attack now. You're seeing Yoda Jochems at the moment kicking down with Zach Carradine, who's one of those riders who closed down quick. He's really up for today. He's answering every move. Key indicator. Riders who are up for the racing respond and chase down attacks. They chase everything that moves. They are really, really up for it. Zach Carradine, I think, is on a bit of a fly today. Maybe he's got that mythical form, but you've got to remember, riders like Zach Nair publish everything. Absolutely everything. Zach is brilliant. I love Zach Nair. Zach, I love you. He puts all of his data out there. He puts all of his facts out there. What he gives us is absolutely information overload. Other riders put nothing, or they put disinformation up onto Strava. So you can stalk them on Strava all you want, but you don't get that.
For me, honesty is everything.
But they aren't being. They're just putting some of the information. If you choose to read that wrong,
I know, and interpretation is obviously really important.
There are lies, and statistics.
But I do love the fact that people share, and I tell you something, somebody sharing some form at the moment is Olivier Simmons in this Category 2 race, setting the fastest time through the Sydney Sprint, 22.592 seconds. There is a second between the top six, so Simmons, Andres, Clays, Kayan, Motakari, Quintero and Trojanowski are the top 7 riders. Kayan, that's Bert Kayan because Khan Kayan is in 4th place, his brother, and Van He rounding out the top 9. It's Category 2 all the way.
It is, and I think Category 2 are really working very, very hard at the moment. I think that competitive racing in Category 2 is showing. Category 1 at the moment, I would like to see Zach Nair's figures right now, because I tell you what, they're going to be a lot calmer than a lot of other people's. Now, another move off the front, another chase. What point are the big teams going to go on the offensive? Just starting to see a response. Now, this is where things get very spicy. Zach Carradine is up the road. He is our lead rider at the moment. SS has gone after him, one of the absolute class riders from the UAE clan team.
And we're seeing the steering in play here, Matt.
Yes.
You know, so SS has gone to the left-hand side of the road to sit in the draft of Carradine. Carradine moves to the right-hand side to try and stop that draft and to stay away. Yoda Jochems is the rider trying to catch here. So both riders utilising the steering function on the Sunday Race Club to find the best route or to try and shake the rider off the tail.
And it's caused absolute mayhem, I think,
Look
behind.
at him. Mel and SS are doing exactly the same as SS tries to go with him. And he's utilising that steering function. No, you can't sit on my wheel. Yes, I want to. No, you can't. They're having an argument on the bike.
They're having a bit of argy-bargy.
Argy-bargy. Oh, I like that term.
Bit of argy-bargy. Right, so as these riders continue to trade blows, or in their case, dance the tango around each other at the moment, it's a bit like the Argentine tango. They're there, they're in contact, but they're not, because they're all flying around across in all different directions, using the ability to race is great. Now, if you like the steering function, if you like the ability to use tactics, and I have to hold my hand up because I always used to use tactics rather than ability because I didn't have very much of that. One of the key things that you will love is jumping on, and instead of using the steering, go on one of the bot races. Oh my goodness. I have had the pleasure. Not only have I had a little bit of a play, I watched 2 of our regular riders on the Sunday Race Club, Mr. X100 and SS, were in action on the bot racing. They picked their 4 riders, their 4 companion bots for their team. Oh my, and at one point they actually left them behind. They left the bots behind. But choosing the tactics that go on there are brilliant to see. When do you use the power? How flat can you let your companion bots batteries go? It's about managing your teammates as well. The thinking part of that race is brilliant. Great for me.
It's all about strategy and understanding and learning race strategy and racecraft, which is just as important as putting the power in your legs and the ability to put that power down. This Category 1 race, 3 riders. This is just electric at the moment. So Carradine trying to cross the bridge to Mare, Popovic and Jochems, 3 riders out front, now 4. Knudsen now picking up the pace because he wants a bit of the action as well. Jones sitting on the front of the group, quietening it down with Graves. They're dropping that pace to 2.5, 2.8, 2.6 watts per kilo on the front of the group. In fact, 1.7. Knudsen is not at 1.7.
He's not, and they are coming in to the base of the descent. So they did a little kicker over the top after the Sydney Sprint. They've done this big descent down. You've seen this group start to form on the front. We've got a real mix of riders. Mare, Popovic, Carradine, Jochems, and now Knudsen. This is an incredibly strong group of 5 riders. Behind, it's 4 seconds back, and Vujasin has seen the danger. Vujasin now wants the bridge. If they start coming across in 1s and 2s, it could form a big enough group to stay away, and we are starting to head towards that first part of the climbing where watts per kilo are more important than the amount of power and the amount of draft you can take.
I'm looking and laughing now because Vujasin really wanted a piece of the action. And his teammate Kaminsky decided he was coming too. Martin's responding as well. Whoa, I don't think we're going to see split groups for much longer in this Category 1 race because they are all wanting to transition to that front pack.
Now, Zach Nair leading this group. His power numbers will be high right now because he is in this chasing group now. They're picking up the pace with Martin's done. They are after Kaminsky. They are after the riders in front. And this is where it's so hard. If you're on the tail end, on the whip end of this, you are going to be in trouble because what is going to happen if you're at the front, if you drop back a little bit, you're not quite on the ball, you'll still be in the draft. If you're at the back of the group and you drop back a bit, you can drop out of that draft, out of the advantage of sitting in a big group, and then you can be in trouble. You can see there, quickly back on the pedals, jumps back in with the group there, does not want to drop out too far out of the back. It's easy to get caught out, and the pace these riders are moving. We are at 43 to 45 kilometers an hour in the chasing group, and we are about to hit the slopes. We've got a massive, substantial, decisive, potentially break at the front. Will that be the case? Let's hit this climb. Let's see. Come on, Emma. Can they make it over the climb without getting completely reabsorbed?
No.
There you go. I love your... That was a Matt answer there. That was a Matt type answer. Decisive
well, I won't
no.
say I'm learning, but...
it's dangerous following what I do, believe me.
But the chase coming here, Norrens is the rider. So Norren is the rider closing this down. Martins is pushing at the front. Well, he's pushing now at the pack. So this group coming back together again. They might be spread down the climb, but they are all in one line. Nobody dropped off the back at the moment. So Van Elst is there. Carradine, Kaminsky, Popovic, Vujasin, Martins, Mare, Jochems. Knudsen is here as well. So is Tolbert and Canzanaro too. Van Diemen there as well. Bjorklund is right up in the mix as well as Phil Graves. That progression up from the Category 2 race. He is in this bunch.
Am I doing good not to be off the front non-stop for the first 30k? You never know.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see, isn't it? Because Graves really has been part and parcel of the front week in, week out. Definitely top 5 for as long as I can remember in Category 2. Last week, it was Kranich who took the win from Graves. In the December final, it was Graves who took the win from Simmons from Kranich. Now, for Category 2, how much do you think they are going to miss the racing style of Phil Graves, or do you think they're going to think the front is more open?
I think I think what you're going to find is that somebody else will step up, because he's not he. Phil's been around a long time. He's a unique character. He is part. It's almost part of the fabric of MyWhoosh in lots of ways. But one of the things I think is that we're not on the early days when we only had a few races. It's a monstrously big race field in every one of our race categories. And that means, I think, you can't help but get almost carbon copies in terms of tactics, etc. You know, how often have we seen category 4? If Luke Allport didn't attack off the front, then Dadson would attack off the front.
No, that's true.
And I think that's the same. You're looking at Marcin Trojanowski in here. And Martin looking strong. He's another rider who I would not discount from. This could be his kind of course. I think he's maybe a little bit more circumspect than Phil Grace, but not all that much. You look at the 4 categories at the moment, they're very similar races at the point in time they were on the course. Category 4 were all together coming in pretty much into that climb in a similar size bunch to categories 1, 2, 3. 4 have split. They are a long way up the climb, and you can see that when you look at the Category 3 race, because the Category 3 race have them in front and behind. They are split across the road. We've got Categories 1, a lot further out, big group. 2, further out, big group. 2 are the next group to hit that climb. Category 3 are just on the basic line. Category 4, about halfway up that climb. 3 and 4, just a quick reminder for people who are maybe forgot, maybe not watched many times, or if you're new, categories 3 and 4 can see each other. They are in their own world. In a parallel, identical world, we have the category 1 and 2 groups. So categories 1 and 2 race in a parallel universe to categories 3 and 4. Never the two shall meet. Those two worlds will not come together. They can't draft each other, but each of the categories in their own worlds counts. So category 3 can catch 4 and draft, and vice versa. Same with 1 and 2, and 2 and 1. Go on, Emma. Sorry.
No, well, don't apologise. I was only going to say there's 700 metres now separating the leaders in Category 3 from the leaders in Category 4. Bearing in mind, they started 5 minutes apart. So Category 4, the first group of racers out of the start pen today, 5 minutes ahead of Category 3, who were 10 minutes ahead of Category 2, who were 5 minutes ahead of Category 1. So Category 4, the current leaders on the road, started 20 minutes before our Category 1 race field. This is Category 2, and they are now up and on to the climb. They've hit the bottom of the Canberra climb, all now but Category 1 on the slopes.
Trojanowski are really pushing. Trojanowski got this. He's got to make this kick now, because I think this is where he is in his territory. This is where you have to make it count. Now, Emma, you said you need to be at the top here in the lead group to be in at the finish. It's a big selection point. It's almost a race finish. I've forgotten the number of times you said. It is. You've got to treat the top of this climb as the race finish, first of all, and then do the same again at the very end. You cannot ignore this, or you can't just sit in here. You've got to be proactive and be at the front. Do you stand by that in all race categories? Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I do. I do think it's true. We have seen, we have seen a chase group of Category 1 with not too much of a big gap actually make the catch, but it's only once I've seen the catch made on screen.
And one swallow does not a summer make. There is an exception to every rule, and I think that was the one. I have to say, you can put the date in your diaries, I agree with Emma here.
Oh, careful.
I think if you are not in, it is the key selection point, it is the top of this climb. You get distance now, you're not going to get back. If you get distance on this climb, you get distance because you haven't got the pace. It's a long enough climb to get back. It is a stepped climb. This basically has a hard start. It then levels. It's got a long flat platform. It then kicks, it levels, and then it kicks again. It's 3 distinct steps. We are on part 1, and part 1 doesn't finish not when it gets steeper, but when it gets onto that leveling off that you can see on the top right hand side of your screen. Get there early, you've got a chance to put a bit of time in.
And one of the best ways to think about this climb is like it is 3 separate climbs, because you can push, you know you've got a space to breathe again, you push again, you breathe, you push. But the steepest parts of this climb come right near the very top. It's an average gradient of 8.1%, so we know there are some really steep sections, but right at the top, 16, 17%.
Now, Ruben Dont kicked once. He went past this group. He knows he's coming into the steeper section at first. Those steep sections everyone was just telling you about. We know that he is a strong rider. Now, Dont is a kick, push, attack, rest, kick, push, attack, rest, kick, push, attack, rest. It looks to me that is a full-on. He's come to a standstill there. That's not good. Maybe he's pushed so hard he's literally snapped the chain on his bike. That would.
It is possible.
It's possible. I've done it. It's more than doable. And then you've got to get yourself going again. I think I've just seen him move off from the start again. That is a big problem. It may have been that he pushed up. He knew he had a problem. Could be that he's actually pushed up in front so that he can stop, get off the back, and get back on. Things like that do happen. Got to remember.
It does indeed. They do happen. Riders drop a bottle, riders drop their phone, riders drop whatever. And actually, the way to know that you've got the capacity to pick it up is to push it on off the front, get off, do what you need to do, and then get back on and chase.
Good friends of ours, Neil, who is my co-host on the Crosscast, actually told me a very funny story about he was on the bike he was riding, and Emma's not heard this one because she's got a recent one. This is going to be really, really interesting for Emma. I promise you, Emma. Stick with it. So
okay.
Neil from Crosscast, my co-host on the Crosscast, he is a really good rider. He was on his turbo trainer and he pushed on a rider I was following and commentating on, and he was there, and we're putting words to the action. It was not a major race, but he pushed on all of a sudden. I'm thinking, what's he doing? What's he doing? And then he stopped completely. He just totally stopped. And I asked him afterwards, he said, what I'd done is the gritty kitty that got a new cat, which was a kitten, came into the turbo room and was starting to play with the power cord to the turbo trainer. And he could see this happening. And he knew at some point he was going to have to take this cat out of the room and shut the door because the kitten was playing with the power lead. Lo and behold, he started sprinting to go in front, and the kitten pulled the power. His turbo went to zero. He then had to get off, take the kitten, put the power lead back on, sprinted to get on the group, and blew up. He then had he just went pop.
Teacher, the dog ate my homework.
Yeah, I know, but it was the fact
race control. The kitten took the lead out of my turbo.
I know, it's a great excuse. I think it's a brilliant reason. And the cat, having seen his kitten eat his microphone whilst we've been recording a Crosscast, which we have got the latest one out. If you want to listen to it, please do. And quick, gratuitous plug there. We do lots and lots, and looking forward to being back on cyclocross. Not this week, next week. Do please have a listen. Do give us a follow. It's at Biking Emma and at Matt Fix the Pain. We've covered lots and lots of events, and we've got to say, watching our riders on the way up here. This group in Category 1, they are together. We've called a lot of shows. We've called a lot of action. I think the riders that we watch on MyWhoosh are some of the best we have ever put words to the action to. We've done over 500 shows. I'm getting ahead of myself. 500 shows I've talked about riders like Chris Hoy. I've talked about great race action. That's 500 esports shows. The riders you have in this front bunch now, I think, are the cream of the crop. Some of the best racing we see is right in front of us now.
They are world in both the men's and the women's racing on 100%. The Sunday Race Club on MyWhoosh. World-class esports riders you can watch week in, week out. Watch the racing. Pick your favourite and support them. They all race with very different tactics. They all have very different strengths. Some of them you may well aspire to be like. Others you may just love the bravery of their racing.
I was just talking about cyclocross. Cyclocross, we have fan clubs with banners. That
yes.
I love Matthew Van Der Poel. You are the best.
The Walt Van Aert corner.
The Walt Van Aert. Well, yeah, let's not go into the booing bit. But we see that. If you have your own fan club, please tell us. Somebody must. Does Matt Smithson have his own fan club there going, ooh? It can be a kid. It can be your parents. It can be whoever. I don't really care who it is, but please,
if Matt Smithson's family would like to send a photo of someone with a banner cheering him on in his pain cave, that would make great social media, and I'd love to see that. But at the moment, Smithson is 30 seconds clear.
He is indeed over the top. He's pushed over the top. There he's on to the descent. But boy, there's a big
It's
train
Mark
behind.
Dadson and Luke Allport in that chasing group. With Kalman, I would not want to be Matt Smithson because those three are phenomenal. Xavier Maillard is in with them as well. So that is a 4-man chasing group.
So here we go, on to the descent, over the top of the climb they go. This is a good sized chase group with some big strong riders in there. They've got work to do to close that gap down. There are plenty of people behind. Now for me, what's going to be really key here is that they work together to get back in on board. Bit further down the hill, Category 3 leaders at the moment. Kansara looking good, weaving his way through the pack here of Category 4 riders in the red. At the moment, Kansara on a bit of a mission here. David Winfield is responding. The rest have to be careful they're not caught out, because this is a good move by Nickel Kansara.
It is indeed. Scolari and Winfield, the riders, pulling the pack through. Kirchner is there as well. So is Rodriguez. These riders need to dig in deep. This is at 20.4 kilometers. Now, they are nearly at the top. In fact, if you look hard up ahead, you can see the polka dot banner indicating the top of the climb. Matt has just taken a step towards the screen to check that what I'm saying is true. He's nodding on the other side of the studio, but they are nearly at the top of this climb as this Category 3 pack works its way. Still a big group, and if you look at the bottom left hand side of your screen and that fabulous shot down the mountain, it's going to be a big group going over the top together.
And what they've got to do now, remember, get through the banner, get around the turn at the top and get back down again. If you are on the front and you've worked this hard, this far, work harder for the last 50 meters or so. Put that final push in that maybe is enough to just break the group. You can just see it left hand side of your screen. There's a gap starting to form between Category 3 riders. Reinforce that. You've put the thin end of the wedge in here. You've now got to get the biggest sledgehammer you can find and smack it in as hard as you can, because you've got to force the gap open. There's no point going hard all the way up that climb to not capitalise on that advantage.
Carpentry.
I'm quite passionate about that, do you think?
Yeah, I think you were.
I am. Well, this is the thing. I hate wasted effort. You go to the top, you put that effort. I'm so envious of them to be able to climb like this, and then you can't squander that. And you can see that. Look at the gaps opening. We see them come over. That was fractional gaps as they came over. This is now 2 packs of Category 3 riders.
Well, actually,
push it home, make it count.
It's a Category 4 rider who's off the front of the pack at the moment. Montoya is pushing on the front. He's got this chasing group of Category 3 riders, but staying out there. So Kansara is there, Oviedo is there, Kirchner is there. These riders all rotating. They're rotating so fast with this pace that it's hard to keep a track of who's where in this leading group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 riders with a tiny gap back to the groups behind.
I think there was 3 riders behind that were chasing.
Yeah,
that would then make it 8. And this is going to be very interesting. So I think 8 riders together in Category 3 with 1 Category 4 in there. That's a big move in pack. As Category 1 now are on the lower slopes of the climb here. They're not up at the very top yet. They're well on their way. They are 18.3k, so about 50% of the climbing done. They have got to keep pushing, and you can see left-hand side of your screen, it's not fractured into 2 big packs. It's fracturing, and it's shedding riders in 1s and 2s behind. The pressure on at the front, well, there's a big drive here, and there are about 8 riders, maybe 10 riders driving this, about 5 riders behind holding on and holding station, and then you get the riders that are in trouble.
Well, interesting to see the French riders that we've seen coming in recently. Planteur is pushing on here in the pack. Really good to see. Kaminsky, Nudsons, Popovic, Paradians, Bjorkland, X100, Jones, all in the mix here, continuing to push up. It's a big group still out the top, and we said the quality of this Category 1 field absolutely superb, as Noren shows us the climbing skill with Van Elst up towards the front of this pack. I think it's going to be a group going over the top.
Ooh, I don't disagree. It would be a group. It's what size group. I think we got to narrow that down. I think we're going to get down to maybe. I think it'll fracture to maybe 2s and 3s, and then reform very quickly on the descent down to about 8. That's my kind of that's the sort of numbers, and that's the sort of numbers I want if I was racing this. That would be where I'd be. You wouldn't want to get much more, but you want to shed the riders behind in 1s and 2s. What you don't want is to be 8 in front and 15 riders behind, because it's so long to the finish. What you want is 1s and 2s behind, so that even if they get it together, they're not going to be there. Now, Vujasic squeezing on the front, 7.5 watts per kilos. Van Elsie's with him. Say Safrazad, another rider on form in there. Martins, Kaminsky, Noren, Talbot all into the red zone now, really pushing up here. But this is a big squeeze coming from Lionel Vujasic.
Well, 14 riders in total in your shot at the moment in that Category 1 pack. The elastic has just snapped on the back for one rider as Vujasic continues with a strong pace on the front. Now we know Vujasic is on form. You know, he has had some phenomenal results recently. Second last week to Michael Vink. Really strong, and I think Vujasic also, when he took that win in December, it really changed his mentality about where he could finish it, through the assumptions that he makes about the other riders out of the window, and gave him that self-belief that he can win the Sunday Race Cup. And it has revolutionized his racing and his riding. His form is superb, and he shows us that at the moment, week in, week out on a Sunday.
Now, here we go. Top of the climb is the next section. We're coming up to part 3. This is going to be key. Emma, you've picked out riders in Category 1. We've talked about the size of group. Category 2 on the right-hand side of our screen. Milostic in there. Gallo looks like we've got Gombert, Quintero, Andres, Gallo Benson. It's a big group, but it's not as big. But we do see a split. There's a sizable group behind. That is dangerous, isn't it? Because although there's a decent size gap, it's maybe quite a big group behind that's got the chase. 21 seconds, I think, is that time gap.
9 riders clear at the moment, and you can see on the bottom left of the screen, it is indeed, Matt is right, a big group behind. But they are around 21 seconds behind. Ruben Dont is the rider pushing on with Ritter, with Gallo, with Bengtsson, with Van He, Andres, Spratt, Quintero, Milostic, Gombert. These riders up here in the mix and working hard and really trying to stay clear. Don trying to push the pace. He's trying to make the most of these final sections of this climb. It's 500 meters until the top of the climb, but they are steep, currently at 11% at the moment. Steep sections. Juan Gallo is the rider joining Ruben Dont. Moritz Ritzer is the rider coming across with Nicholas Spratt. Anders Bengtsson is a little bit further back, but these riders making the most of the final sections of this climb.
And it's putting riders in trouble behind. A dual mission at the front by those riders that Emma's just called out there, because they are looking to accelerate over the top, put time on the big groups behind. But I think as well, the second part of this is splitting some riders off the back. Espina, 5 seconds down.
Yeah.
Andres, 2 seconds down. They're yo-yoing on the back of the group. There are riders further back. Milostic, I think, is at 7 seconds
Just need
now.
to hang on.
They do, but the leaders are over the top, and the gap is now going to open. And I think this is where you're going to see that smaller group go in and through. So at the moment, over the top, they go 7 riders together. Espina's at 6 seconds, 7 seconds, and they're in 1s and 2s behind. That means that they don't have numerical advantage. That superiority lies with the riders in the front. Don't taking that polka dot skin suit, and look at the distance, because we're on the downhill to the chasing riders. Spratt knows this. Look at him go.
It is indeed, and we can see some big numbers coming out of that front group, particularly the riders on the back, because Van He at the moment up at 10 watts per kilo, because he knows the danger of losing the group on the descent. Well, talking about losing the group on the descent, the Category 1 race is not on the descent yet. It's 12% under their wheels at the moment as Vujasin continues with the pace on the front. SS in 2, Martins in 3, Kaminsky, Safrazad, Popovic. The riders are all there. Talbot is there, X100 is there, Noren is towards the back of this group. Knudsen is hanging on as well. They don't have far to go. This is 20.3 kilometres. The top of this climb is in 400 metres.
And Knudsen is giving it everything to stay with this group. So is Noren. They know they've just got to hang on to the top here. They were off the back. That is why I think we were seeing Vujasin pushing so hard on the front. He wanted to lose Knudsen. He wanted to diminish the UAE clan team strength. The clan team have got Popovic, you've got Mr. X100, you've got SS. And if you've got Knudsen, that's all 4 of their team riders who are here today in that group. This is going to be really, really important. What they do now will decide the mix of that group. If they can shed riders, it's going to help. And you can see a little bit further back, Noren is now at 1 second. Pim van Diemen looks like he's the rider off the back. He's got a gap there, and that's 8 seconds. That is a massive effort he's going to have to put in. And behind him, Nair, Van Elst, they're about 12 seconds down. They've got some company from people like Nicholas van Haren who will be able to assist him, maybe Cat 2, but they will be close enough to assist, particularly on the downhill or the flatter sections. The push comes over the top, though. You can see we have got a big, big pack with David Talbot taking that polka dot skin suit. So he's going to be right in the mix. There we go. And you can see what a group. I mean, that is the top 9 riders in there. That's a who's who of riding on the Sunday Race Club if you ever saw it.
Well, 10 riders in that leading group. Talbot, SS, Vujasin, Kaminsky, Safrazad, Martins, Knudsen, Popovic, X100 and Noren. What a group. You said 8, Matt. It's 10.
I'll take that. It's not quite perfect, but it's pretty close. It almost.
I'm almost right.
I'm almost right. I mean, you know, it was only 2 riders. What's 1 or 2 riders between friends? It's the difference between staying away and not staying away. It's the difference between those 2 riders. Potentially, if they're weaker on the climb, at the top of the climb, it may be somebody who's better in a sprint than on a long effort. At the top of the long effort, it counts that you've put in trouble. Now, even if they've not been distanced, pushing over the top has done damage to people's legs. They've got to recover on the downhill. You see people easing off the pedals. You can see this super tuck here from Mr. X100 stopping the revs, cutting down on the power that he's putting
dropping his heart rate quickly.
Well, it's one of those key things, isn't it? If you want the details on what to do and how important dropping your heart rate is, ask Emma on @BikingEmma. I don't need to let you know or give you a warning, because we know just that Emma is going to be able to tell you chapter and verse about it. It's one of her key tricks.
He's
racing.
Dropping his heart rate dramatically at the moment because he wants that recovery and as much recovery as possible, because whilst there is no major climbing on the run in, there are still places to dig and we will still see some attacks. Interestingly, we've got 5, by the look of it, category 2 riders now picked up by the group.
We have, but Joran Noren has just been distanced. He was the last rider over the top. He was number 10 of 10 riders. He's got this gap of about 3 seconds, and he's missed the boat here.
He's going to have to push.
He is going to have to really push, because it's not just those category 1, it's category 2 that Emma spotted in there as well. And Noren has got to sprint. SS needs to give it some beans here as well. I think he's just got distance on this descent. Now we know SS is strong. He's one of the workhorses. He's one of those people that make the UAE clan team happen. But he's got to really work hard now. You can see he's at 7 watts per kilo. And this, I talked about burning matches. This is burning a big, big match here, because this is a sort of effort at 8.5 watts per kilo that you can only do a number of times. I've just seen 8.9 at peak coming out of SS. He's determined to get on. He's using that flatter section when the pace is slightly lower. and the advantage of the group is less to push, but that gap is there, and this is now a desperate chase for SS. Noren has gone 6 seconds. He's a long way down.
Well, we said you had to be with them when you went over the top, and this is the reason why. It's a perfect example of what happens when the momentum picks up. These riders are traveling at 95 kilometers an hour on the downhill section here, and they continue to dig. X100 just kicking at 11 watts per kilo there to really push the power and push the momentum there before he motors. Khan K, our category 2 rider, really doing a great job of digging in, but SS and Noren are off the back of the group.
And they are so in trouble in terms of getting to the front. Noren at 7.8. That kick from Mr. X100, interestingly, took him from the very back. He was in danger of going off the back there, wasn't he, Emma?
Yeah,
and then he kicked his way and he pushed himself through. And then that momentum carried him through. He won't want it to have distanced SS. We've seen SS and Mr. X100 pace themselves back time and time again, but burn up a lot of energy doing so. Now, SS is going to do that. If he comes back, will he be in a position to push off the front? I'm not sure he will. I think the problem for him will be that we've got a number of riders in him. We've got Category 2 motivated by the fact that they can close down on riders in front in Category 2 because they're hitching a lift with that big pack of Category 1, and it's going to be relatively flat. There are not too many kickers. Key points to watch out for: after the Canberra sprint, there is a slight depression and then a kick. So once we've gone through the Canberra sprint, that comes at 30.7k to 31, at about 31.5, 32k, you've got a nasty little bit of a kick. That could separate out Shed, the Category 2 riders. Till that point, they've got to make the most of this.
Riders making the most of this at the moment. Michael Knudsen back to some of his previous form. He's in this leading group at the moment in the Category 1 race. Taking a look, they are at 26.7 kilometers. They are only 500 meters behind the leaders in the Category 2 race. On the bottom of the screen on the left hand side, that's the Category 3 race at 32.7 kilometers. They are 1,000 meters behind the leaders on the road. Well, that is the Category 4 race. They started first today. They've got 1 hour and 1 minute of racing under their wheels. Matt Smithson still out in the lead, 25 seconds up, but Luke Allport and Mark Dadson, they are doing the chasing with Kalman and Maillard. That group of 4 riders have indeed been working together and trying to bring that gap down.
So the Category 4 and Category 3 en route towards the finish here at the moment. A very active and aggressive race. You can see at the moment on the left of your screen, just going over one of those races, the Category 3 riders, but still to reach that point, the Category 2 leaders. They're in town. They're about to take the tight right-hand turn, and they are currently at what is nearly, well, it's 29.1. It's nearly 30k of the 45k distance cover. So they're approaching, fast approaching, what is 2/3 race distance.
6 riders in that leading group.
It's a big group, isn't it? And I mean, you've got, for me, number of danger men in here, but the biggest danger man in here is Ruben Dont. Dont, we know, has got a sprint. He's proved that time and time again, taking green jerseys. What's he got at the moment? He's got the polka dots because he can climb. I think we are in danger of seeing this group tow Dont to the finish, and that for me would be a no-no, a big no-no.
Well, Spratt is strong, Bengtson is strong, Ritter was 4th behind Dont in 3rd last week. So there really is some strength and depth in this top 6 riders.
But what they've got to do is they've got to break Dont, because if they just kick, Dont's going to follow. If they kick twice, Dont's going to follow. If they kick on the short climbs, the short kickers, Dont can follow. What they need to do is they're going to need to do something pretty concerted here to take this away. They've either got to keep him under pressure all the time, or they've got to put attack after attack, because for me, he is a big favourite in that group. But favourites have pressure, and pressure can result in failure. So this is where he's got to be able to handle that pressure. That is on the right screen, left-hand side, sorry, Emma. Category 1, they are motoring.
They are indeed. And for me, part and parcel of this Category 2 race now is who can hang with this Category 1 pack. They are only 500 metres behind the leaders in the Category 2 race. There are other Category 2 riders in the mix and Category 2 riders in between this leading group and the leading group of Category 2 riders. If this Category 1 pack pull this group up, it's going to really change the dynamics of that Cat 2 race.
It is, and you've got Burke and Carncayan in here.
If who can sprint? Cast
your mind back to the MyWhoosh Championship. It's a $1 million prize fund race. The 8-day stage race. Get the right way around that. And that race was fantastic. And we saw Burke and Carncayan taking sprint points and sprint prizes aplenty in that race. It's well worth a watch.
It is.
Back. Absolutely looking forward. I was hoping, and it may still happen, I don't know, that we were going to have that about now coming in. That we'd be looking forward to that now. But of course, we've got something even bigger. We have the World Championships in October and the whole run into that as part of being the official esports partner for the UCI from 2024 through 2025 and into 2026. So right now on the front of the Category 1 group, David Talbot has pushed here. He's gone off the front. He's on the right-hand side of the road here. He's right on that white line, just trying to keep the pressure on. Martin Martins went across. He's been trying to shed the riders behind him. But this
X100 shut it down really fast.
Talbot, Coalition Alpha squad. They are a team. The Coalition squad, we see it time and time again. They know how to ride as a team.
They won the December final by 1 minute 39 seconds, with riders finished in 2nd, 6th and 8th position.
At the moment, we are seeing, and we have seen this before, the UAE clan team are almost a constant in what is the battle at the front. And we've seen the Belgian Waffle squad challenge them and go to the wayside at the moment. We have seen other teams come and go. At the moment, the team, the contender, and they've landed some big punches, taking wins in the December final. Coalition Alpha squad, Vujasin, Kaminsky, Jones, Turek, and Talbot. You watch this composition go past you on the right-hand side of your screen of the riders in here. You've got some good riders in this squad.
Vujasin and Kaminsky in that Coalition Alpha squad both have a phenomenal kick on them. I wouldn't want to take either of them into a sprint finish, and we've seen them teammates side by side battling for the sprint win. I do remember when Kaminsky rolled his teammate Vujasin on the line for 1st and 2nd. Will it happen again today, or will it be one of the other riders? It's currently Mr. X100. He's chasing Olivia Simmons in front, the Cat 2 rider, but he's putting the effort in now. And it's Talbot responding.
Now, this is the clan team putting the pressure onto the Coalition squad here, because Talbot has responded to the move by Mr. X100. Mr. X100 went down the road. Talbot marked him out. These are the two big teams on there. They were both following the instigation of Olivier Simmons, who himself has the motivation of trying to get back to the lead group. You can see that on your screen. Where are those fast times? Well, they're all coming from the group. All of that group getting through quick. I mean, what a fast set.
Look at SS coming through.
Yeah, he's just come in, hasn't he? He's on the chase there. He's come through fastest time. He's gone through. That is a second, 1.037 of a second quicker. He's on the chase.
He is indeed.
And I think this is why Olivier Simmons has picked up the pace here, because he's seen everybody yo-yoing with the pace. Attack and rest, attack and rest. If that attacking is making up 10% of the time and 90% of the time they're looking at each other, they're not closing on the lead group.
But you've got to think about
Simmons needs them to go up the road.
But you have to think about this, don't you? Because Simmons has a very different strategy in play than the Cat 1 racers. The Cat 1 racers have got, 13 kilometres still to go. It's a group of, 9 riders. So very different tactics from that group than it is from Simmons, who wants them to tow him up. He's making the assumption they are going to be at the head of the race, and he is going to take a tow. At the moment, at the head of the Cat 4 race, we're seeing Matt Smithson get caught. We said this might happen. Smithson attacked on the climb. He put a real effort in on that climb and went over the top in the lead. But Allport, Dadson, They were two riders in this chase group that we knew would work hard together.
Indeed they have, and they've done it. They've closed this down now. Turn and turn about. You can just see Allport's gone through. You've got Dadson behind. They've said to Smith some time to work, and you can see at the moment it's an Oceania top three at the moment. So three people who come from the South Pacific really pushing at the moment, really got the front of the race. Behind the chase is on, and it's a real mix of nations in the chasing groups in both category 4 and in category 3. Remembering the category 3 riders in the blue, although they're further back, they should be moving quicker.
Well, they should be moving quicker. They're 600 metres behind the leading 5 on the road. The leading 5 on the road, leading that Category 4 race. This is the Category 1-2 race. And we're taking a look here. David Tolbert is still on the attack. You know, Kaminsky closing it down with Martins. Knudsen is there. So is Vujasin and Safrazad. They are continuing to move. They have now worked their way up. Kaminsky's 15th on the road.
Oh,
it's not far up, you know. Take a look at that bottom left-hand corner of the screen. You can see where those riders are in that Category 2 race.
And I think this is going to be very, very telling. What happens? Are we going to see all the riders in front jumping on board? They've worked, they've been away longer, they've been in that leading group longer. That's put the pace up. What do? At what point do you not try and stay away, but do you recover for when the catch is made and when you put the pressure on to go with the group? Left-hand side of your screen, that's Category 3 at the moment. Now Category 4, a quick glimpse of all 4 categories at the moment. Remember, this is a 45-kilometre race, just over 5 kilometres to go for our Category 4 leaders on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Our Category 1 leaders are still the riders who are the furthest from the finishing line. They are at 33.9k covered. They have the most to do, but the groups are covering the ground, and they're going to be almost in the same place at the same time if they were all in the same world. And a quick reminder, Categories 3 and 4 are in one universe. In the parallel universe, we have Categories 1 and 2. I like parallel universe theory. I just don't understand any of it, but I can work it with 2.
Let me give you a little bit of history on the last time we were on the Australian Outer Loop course. It was Qualifier 2 in December. Vujasin, Kaminsky, Safrazad, Popovic and Martins were the 5 across the line in the Cat 1 race. 1 hour and 10 minutes. In the Category 4 race, it was Nowak from Treshov, from Warren, from Agudelu, from Columbari. 1 hour and 23 minutes. So 13 minutes separating the fastest time in Cat 4 from Cat 1.
And they set off 20 minutes in front, which means they got to the line first. Will that be the case today? A bit harder, I think, today, because Category 4, I think, today have seen a breakaway. We've seen that move. And at the moment, Matt Smithson, after going so hard, well, he's well and truly blown his socks, not just off, but right out of the building.
Goodness.
That is a spectacular fall. He's gone down from first to 5th. That is a long way back.
A little bit like we saw with Lou Bates on that climb. She pushed on hard. I've just been told off in the studio for spoilers, but you know, you'll know if you're watching the race and if you don't go back and see how it happened. But there was indeed a little bit of a blow in the women's race.
Well, yes, Lou Bates did do a little bit of a collapse. You'll have to see quite where that was and what the effect was. Go back, watch the show. Emma's just giving you a teaser rather than a spoiler. Go on then, you can be forgiven.
Thank you. Anyway, back to the men's race.
It was a cracker. Don't forget,
was good.
It's really, really important. If you're going to come and race, make sure you get that information in. Watch the racing that's happened, not just the men's race if you're riding the men's, or not just the women's if you're riding the women's. Make sure you watch both, because there are different tactics quite often played out, and they do transfer. Now, Category 1 leaders are going to make the catch here on to a group of Category 2 riders, and I think this is going to be Group 2 on the road of Category 2 riders. So the chasing Category 2 riders now have managed to come across. This is going to be the junction made. They're going to do it on the climb, and it may well be that that is fortuitous for them, because we get into this bumpier section. This is where the Category 1 riders have a chance to really accelerate. Michael Knudsen, after having been swinging off the back of the group on the climb, is now pushing on the front of the group. Was he just playing dead because he was being played with by the cats out on the climb? But at the moment, he's looking strong. He's in this group. They come through, trying to use that confusion, trying to push on, make sure you're at the front. Safrazad really working well. I think he is really having to make the most of his time in this group. We're in with Knudsen with the shaven head. There he goes down the left-hand side here. 6 watts per kilo he's gone at. And you can see instantly responses coming from David Talbot behind. Talbot is kicking. That was a wind-up by Knudsen, who goes across the road. Now Talbot tries to get in his slipstream, steering across the road from left to right at the moment. Really making this count. It's going to be really, really important to stay in the slipstream. And at the moment, this is a move.
Well, Knudsen in real life taking on the the avatar that you see in front of you, visiting the barbers and taking the hair to the extreme for the aerodynamics in the pain cave, like the aerodynamics on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. Knudsen in real life now looking like his avatar on screen. Is that taking the Sunday Race Club too far? Well, only time will tell whether it works for Knudsen today, but he's leading out this Cat 1 race. Talbot in 2, Popovic in 3. They are moving strongly with the swelling ranks of this group with those Category 2 riders they have picked up.
Well, at the moment, that pressure really is on the front. There are this big move being made by Knudsen. I don't think he's like Samson. He's not lost his strength with the cutting off of his locks. He has got the power, and he's using these groups coming together to really be aggressive here. Popovic's teammate is with him, and do not discount Pablo Popovic's kick. Pablo Popovic, we call him the momentum master because he uses every single bit of the dynamics to be incredibly fast by just using the free speed. He's like that ultimate freestyle rider or that ultimate dirt jump rider who just seems to magic air out of nowhere. He magic speed out of the course by using the course. Popovic can also sprint. He has got a phenomenal sprint on him. We are talking 15 plus watts per kilo in the sprint. That means that he has got some proper power and he's a danger man to take to the line. Knudsen and Popovic are together at the front of this group pretty much, as we see Knudsen and Kaminsky riding hard. Straight on the wheels goes for Jasin. Talbot is there. Safrazad is there. The effort to break this is immense. It's not happening at the moment. They're on the top left-hand side of your screen. You can see all 4 riders initially, but we are going to focus in on categories 3 and 4 for a little while because they're getting towards the end of the race route. 600 meters separating them. Category 4 at the moment, right-hand side of your screen, are nearest, and Dadson and Allport are together. This should be a 2-up sprint. Dadson versus Allport versus Dadson.
Oh my
We've
goodness.
seen this so many times before.
This is a phenomenal 2-up sprint to the line with Dadson and Allport. Last week, Allport got the better of Dadson. Will it be the same again today, or are they going to reverse that? Who's going to take the lead out? Who's going to sit on the wheel? Who's going to let the other sit on the wheel? Probably is the question. Dadson seems happy to lead this out.
Well, the problem he's got, and the problem both of them have, is that 15-second gap back to Kalman, Mathias Kalman, is really, really working. You look at his watts kill, he's sitting consistent. He's not sprinting. He's sitting consistently at a pace. He's doing 4 watts per kilo or so all the way through here. What you've got in front is a 3 watts per kilo lead as they come off the front. That means that these two are yo-yoing, and that time gap could come down like so quick.
That's what Kalman is banking on. Kalman has set himself at a good, steady time trial pace, knowing what he can do into that finish line, hoping that Allport and Dadson are going to be looking at each other.
Here we go. This is the run for the line. Dadson's kicking, but he's eased and he kicks again. I think he wanted to see whether he's getting a response. He has, but it's not much. I think Dadson's got the pace. He's got the power. Well done, Mark Dadson. It's a win here today on qualifier number 2. He had the power and the pace. He takes the win. Allport comes through in second place. What a way to take victory in that 2-up sprint. Now, a little bit further back down, 500 metres back, Nicol Cansara has gone early. Cansara has gone harder. We saw him on the climb, pushing the pace up. He's on his way in towards the line here. We've had the top 3 come through in Category 4. That is Dadson, Allport and Kalman. This is your next rider who's going to come in behind Maillard, who will take 4th place in Category 4, because Cansara has a gap of 2 seconds to Kirchner, 1 second to Kirchner. Will he hold on? He's going to hold on. Well done, Nicol Cansara. It's a win here today in Category 3. Caligula and all the rest of that bunch come through. Massive chase going in. That was incredibly quick as they came in through the line. Let's drop back to Categories 2 and 1.
Wow. Right, so we are back in with Category 2 and 1 whilst Matt puts his jaw back together again. 41.4 kilometres for the leaders at the moment on the road. That's Spratt, Dont, Benson and Ritter. 4 riders in the Category 2 race are at the front of this race at the moment. Just doing a double check, I'm thinking that is 900 metres behind.